We got Mayweather fucking Pacquiao! Andy Patterson, suck my balls!
And first of all, I want to thank Al Ayman, the best manager in the world.
He's the fucking champion of the world! Miguel, man!
The 13th Box Asylum edition of the Nuthouse podcast. It is the 22nd of February. This is a sober Andy Patterson for a change, hosting the podcast. Sorry about last night. I didn't think it was that bad until I actually listened back to the show again. I was pretty pissed last night, and I didn't realise it until I seen the empty bottle of whiskey lying next to the sink for some reason as well. A couple of cans of Stella lying there. No Kurt Ward this week. That's why we've not got any intro music. Kurt's in the midst of have major weather problems down where he stays, and his internet's kind of intermittent. We've got Adam Smith, we've got Alex Morris doing the background work for us today. David Loback somewhere in Virginia on his car phone. Steve Wellens and Kyle McLaughlin. We're hoping to have Tommy Allen on shortly. He's had to do some urgent business. Just to let the listeners know, is in a little under, I would say, the next 10 to 15 minutes, we're hoping to have promoter Lou DiBella on the call, and hopefully maybe later on get heavyweight contender Dillian White also on the call. Aye, probably right, Steve. Urgent business equals shit. I was probably having a smoke or something like that, you know. But anyway, guys, obviously we did discuss the two main fights last night. I don't know if he's a ref and he's if he's rewatched it, if you want to say anything else on the fight last night. If he's do, then now's the time to speak up. We've got a couple of minutes.
Well, there's 4 people on here who went on here last night, so they can all speak up and talk about it.
Well, Steve, Adam, and Kyle, how did you think last night? Obviously, Golovkin extended 11 rounds for the first time, but again, he was just very methodical. The way he moved Murray about the ring, constant pressure, broke him apart. And in the end, at the end of this, Murray showed massive balls there last night. He could have shown in the towel at any time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm happy to jump in quickly. I wasn't concentrating very well last night. I was too busy gambling. But I watched the replays this morning. I thought Golovkin, pretty much as we kind of expect. It's the constant pressure that he puts on fighters it must literally do you head in. That mean, it's more of a mental fatigue. Obviously Murray was fatigued by getting put down by big body shots, but the mental fatigue that Golovkin applies to opposition is just mad. He never relents at all. If you think you've got a second, you haven't. He's always going forward in the pocket. It took quite a few. It was a kind of weird fight, really. I mean, the fourth round, I actually had a fiver on fourth round KO because I said that on the pod last week that was my pick, and I thought it was looking good, obviously for obvious reasons, and then the ref steps in with 7 or 8 seconds still to go. Golovkin going in for the kill kind of thing, and then he says that he misheard the bell or something. So, but yeah, I definitely thought Golovkin could have got rid of Murray at any time. From the 4th round onwards, definitely the 4th, the 5th. I think the 8th and 9th were particularly bad. I thought Murray's leg sagged a few times, and I even said to who I was watching him with, I said, he's ready to go here. But obviously Golovkin was comfortable to go the rounds. I think that he, if it had gone 12, I don't think he'd have been overly bothered. Obviously the finish came, but I think that I kind of thought last night that if obviously he's the best middleweight that we've got currently, and Murray was his best test to date. But if he was to step up to 168, I think obviously it would be a size disadvantage, i.e. height, but also the guys at the higher weight are going to carry a little bit more power, obviously. So I think that he could potentially come unstuck. We're all saying he's got a great chin, but Murray, even a fresh Murray, isn't a known banger. But when Murray's been battered around and his nose is bleeding and he's knackered, basically, he was landing a few shots on Golovkin. I think 7, 10 maybe, them kind of rounds. He was landing a few shots, but they're definitely, there's no point in saying Golovkin's got a granite chin, because Murray was definitely fatigued by then. Golovkin continues. It's just great for boxing, really. Especially that it was on Channel 5. He'll fight for anyone. He'll fight regularly. He obviously brings a fan-friendly style. Talks well. He doesn't really trash talk. Perfect for boxing. Quickly on Abraham, I last week said that it would pretty much be a repeat. I didn't really see what either men could do that was miles away from what we saw last September, and that's kind of what happened. I think Abraham, there was definitely a different Abraham in there last night, whether he trained better or more seriously, or he came out the first time, maybe started a bit too quickly, and gassed a little bit in the middle rounds. Smith didn't do much. I don't think, I've only watched it once, but I don't think he did anything majorly different from last September. So Abraham got the job done. Some idiot bookmakers went 6-4 the point, so I had to back that. I thought that was a bit, good value, and I think that I think on that form last night, I think he easily beat Sturm. Possibly, I know he's not been stopped for a long time, if ever, but possibly stopped Sturm on that form. And someone tweeted me this morning. I'm not going to claim credit for it, but also, he probably beats Groves on that form as well. So well done to Abraham. Again, a brave effort from Murray. But I mean, when the commentators are bringing out, brave effort, and I think there's Bellew of the Week candidate. One of the Channel 5 commentators said excellent defence. I mean, there's a difference between excellent defence and just surviving. So good night all in all. I didn't see any of the undercard, but yeah, that's me.
Were you trying to troll Christine with that Groves comment?
Oh, good. Well, if someone has, thank you. If not, I will do so.
Kyle, Steve.
Can I just say something about? Most of it I've heard. I listened to last night's show, and I think pretty much everything's been said about the fight that can be said. I just wanted to talk about these people who keep calling on Triple G to move up to 168. Both his fans and his critics. I just find that to be stupid and annoying, because for one, I think Eddie said it last night, he's a bona fide middleweight like Hagler. I completely agree with that. Middleweight is his optimum weight. That's where he belongs. And I think 168 is just, we're going to see a lesser version of the man, and who wants to see that? I mean, there are fights coming up. There are guys who are going to move up to middleweight. Canelo is a big one. I think that fight can happen, and I think you should stick around for that. The winner of Lemieux and Endam is good. Even if Lemieux loses against Endam, I think that would be a great fight just for entertainment's sake. We got the Charlo brothers. One of them is probably going to move up, or both of them. You got Demetrius Andrade, who's not with Heyman, so we could see that fight made. He's certainly got the frame to move to middleweight. So, I mean, there are going to be guys that he can fight there. You just got to hang out and be patient. And as for now, the next fight we can see maybe the Endam and Lemieux winner. In the meantime, if he does want to move up to 168, there's only one fighter I'd like to see him be willing to meet up at a higher weight, which is Chavez Jr., because he trashes him at any weight, just destroy him, and I would love to see that fight. I know it's pretty hypocritical of him to call him out immediately after he moves with Heyman and is secure to not have to fight Golovkin. But I'd still love to see that fight if it can ever possibly be made. I wish Golovkin's team would be a bit more aggressive in the calling out of that guy.
Yeah, I mentioned it last night, as well as the fact is people, some people will defend Froch when you hear people ask him to move up to light heavyweight to face, I don't know, Adonis Stevenson or whatever. I think I mentioned it last night. People say, Eddie Hearn, for instance, says he's a career super middleweight. So, people who are maybe saying, well, you should move up to get a bigger test at super middleweight Golovkin, it's never going to happen, I don't think, because as he says, he is I would say he's actually a career middleweight. He is a career middleweight. Anything north or south of that weight, I don't think it's going to be optimal for him. So I think he should stay at 160. The side difference was quite telling there last night, but just clearly that his punches were just kind of breaking Murray down. Kyle, I'll give you the final comments, mate, on these two fights.
Well, to be honest with you, I hate Paul Smith, but I've got to say, fair play to him. Abraham was he was well up for the job last night, whereas he clearly wasn't focused for the first one. And Paul Smith, I thought, still gave a good account of himself. So even though I hate Paul Smith as a person, or certainly as a personality on Twitter and what have you, and on social media, I've got to say, as a fighter, he's not bad. He's definitely a good European level fighter, and fair play to him. Saying that, Martin Murray deserves all the plaudits that he's getting from everyone, really. He is nails. For me, it put to bed the Andre Ward fight once and for all, because Murray is known as a sort of quite a bog standard but tidy sort of European-esque fighter with a tight defence, and he showed last night that he could tie Golovkin up early, and when he did tie him up, I think you could see the game plan for Andre Ward, and I think that fight just isn't that exciting for me anymore, to be perfectly frank with you. I'm with you guys, he should stay at middleweight. There's some good guys coming up from light middleweight. There's Endam and Lemieux, they might fight, so hopefully the winner out of those guys could fight GGG. Most importantly, I'm looking forward to the new crop of middleweights. Maybe not Rio Murato, who looks a bit past his prime already, funnily enough. He looks like he's run out of ideas. But Evgen Kiatov, the Ukrainian, he's a monster puncher. He looks a really good prospect. I think maybe 18 months down the line, he might be ready to challenge him. So, yeah, I think the future looks bright for me at middleweight. Most people hate middleweight, but I think that Golovkin's got some good fights coming up. I hope to God that he gets the Cotto fight. It's the kind of star scalp that he not only needs but deserves. So I think it's looking good.
Just coming on next, we've actually got promoter Lou DiBella coming on, so just bear with us a second here. Alex will get him on the line. So Alex, if you've got his number there, mate, if you can just put him through it.
Yeah, I'll set it up now, one sec.
We've just lost David Lowe back there. I think he's the mountains up there in Virginia or Montana, wherever he is, by the way. So sorry about that, Dave. We'll be back on the call once he gets back through it. Yeah, or is it? Remember, mute Dave when you come back on, mate. Seeing the calls filled to Lou there, yeah.
I think so. I'll try again, 1 second. Oh, I think it might be going through now. No, it's not.
Donnie, mate, if you can do me a favour and just drop him a wee text just to see if he's maybe on the phone or something.
It's not going through?
No, it's just saying call failed.
Well, hang on. Why is it?
Wait a minute. Alex, yeah. Take off the +44, mate. That's a UK code.
Right. Okay. 1 sec.
Just type in. I just think if you're calling America, just type in the American cell number.
Yeah, it's 1 also. Yeah.
That's why it's not working.
Might as well talk about something else while we're working this out, I suppose.
Right, no worries. Just while we're waiting, actually, I'll tell you what. I don't know if anyone has seen the recent card for Premier Boxing Champions. We got Al Heyman's next card from Canada, Stevenson Beaker. That card's looking pretty good, actually. I'm quite looking forward to this card. Who else has got Gabriel Campillo against Arthur Beterbiev, also on that card. I think that's going to be a good fight, and it's I don't know who else is actually under. Oh, here we go.
We're ringing now. We're ringing.
Hello.
Hi, Lou.
This is it.
Hi, Lou. It's Andy Patterson from Boxing Asylum. We've got a scheduled interview.
Okay, Andy. Could you hear me even with the music in the background?
Yeah, we can hear you fine, mate. Yeah, how you doing anyway?
No, I'm just at a place that's playing some music, so I can't turn the music off. But if you can hear me, I'll walk outside.
That's okay. No, we weren't getting any feedback off you. I believe you spoke to my colleague Tommy about obviously the big fight's been announced, Pacquiao Mayweather. In all honesty, us guys weren't really wanting to talk about it because it's been like 6 years of talk and broken promises. But now seem to be getting the fight. Give me your take on basically the fight getting signed finally.
I expected it to get signed this time because everyone involved was best served by it happening now. I don't think the fight's any smaller now than it would have been 6 years ago. I think Mayweather's 39 and Pacquiao's 38. They're both were 6 years younger, and now they're 6 years older. But, finally, the Super Bowl is happening. The World Cup final of boxing is happening. I think it's good for the sport, and anyone who thinks it isn't is a fucking moron.
Well, there's one of my colleagues here, Kyle's not really want to talk about it. I think, I just think as well as that the fans have been kind of let down and stuff. But obviously, the fans are going to be looking forward to it. Me myself, though, I'm not.
First of all, I don't believe the fans have been let down. Second of all, I believe the boxing fans, at least in the United States, are somewhat irrelevant to the whole market. There's not a lot of hardcore boxing fans. Pacquiao's last pay-per-view did 300,000 homes. The key with Mayweather-Pacquiao is its ability to sell to regular sports fans, to the fans that are watching soccer and baseball and American football. Those are the people we're selling to. And to those people, every single one of them is interested in this fight. Everyone I know, knowing my role in boxing, everyone I know, people that never watch boxing, have been contacting me about this fight. So, the whole key with this fight is going to be a way to reach out and bring in more fans, to bring in younger fans, to bring in new fans. That's the key of this fight. And frankly, it's also well timed with all the new networks that are getting involved in boxing in the States.
That's true.
And Lou, if you don't mind my asking, how do you feel about that? I mean, obviously, I think a lot of promoters like yourself, Top Rank, all the main events, all these other promoters. What do you think about the fact that basically Heyman is now giving away his content for free and sort of changing the entire market landscape? I'd have to think, honestly, with the view to driving out his competition. What do you view?
No, I don't think. I got to be honest with you. I don't think that's his view. I mean, first of all, I'll start by saying the guy's my friend, Heyman, and I'll continue by saying he's one of the smartest guys in the business. And then I'll continue by saying boxing's in a motherfucking shitter, and all of the little nerds out there that think it's not, who tweet out there and follow everything that goes on through their computers, should realize that the absence of boxing on free TV and its movement to pay television and pay-per-view was not good for the sport, and that the sport has not been growing. It's been constricting and contracting, that it's not even, if you go on Yahoo or ESPN, listed with the major sports. You have to go into a side menu to get it. And that right now the best hope for the sport is to reinvent itself, through the mass media to the general public who right now is watching it. And, I'll preface this by saying, I have a really good relationship with Alan. We've been friends for a long time, and I'm obviously going to be promoting shows with him. So that may put me in somewhat a better position than some of my other competitors. But that being said, he's not pushing HBO out of the business. He's not pushing Showtime out of the business. He's not pushing anybody else out of the business. And if the business was doing so well, the networks would be paying for it. The fact that he's had to raise a big war chest and buy time is an indication that advertisers aren't buying boxing. The problem is there are too many people out there who are now able to make opinions because there's nobody policing who writes about boxing, who talks about it. It's a free world, that's fine. But there are a lot of morons who don't get it. And if you got it, you'd understand that the reason why networks want people to buy the time is because they're not able to sell time themselves. If they were, sports rights are through the roof. Boxing rights are cheap as hell. So these networks haven't been buying it because even with the rights as cheap as hell, they haven't been able to profit on it. If they were able to profit on it, they would have been paying for it before Al Heyman and the organization and the business he created began buying time.
I mean, I'm not saying, Lou, that it's not good for the sport. I think the return of boxing to network television is fantastic for the sport. My thing is,
I don't see it. It's not. I don't see how in any way, shape, or form it would push HBO or Showtime out of the sport. Frankly, if I was running HBO, I'd view it as an opportunity because what I would be doing is saying, okay, I'm going to get the best product in the world because you can't have everything. I would get the best product in the world available to me and run with it. And I think an environment in which Mayweather-Pacquiao is happening, an environment with boxing is returning to network television and networks that never televised it before, is a better environment for boxing than the one we've had for the last decade.
Do you think that HBO needs to bring Heyman back into the fold and decide to work with him and sort of have?
I think HBO needs to do whatever the fuck they want to do. I don't think HBO needs to do anything. I think they need to be smart and maybe have people running it that have passion and regain the passion they once had for the sport. I think that HBO will be just fine. I mean, they have some stars. Golovkin's terrific. I mean, I enjoy watching Golovkin. I think they got to figure out a way to develop stars and build their own talent. I mean, Showtime's had Showbox, and I've thought for a long time that HBO should have its version of Showbox. To have its own platform to build its own fighters. But that being said, I mean, I don't think HBO needs to do anything. I mean, it doesn't matter what need. If they want, they'll do what they want to do.
Lou, can I ask, have you heard
I don't mean to sound shippy, but I've been around a long time. I've been in this business 26 years now, and I know it pretty well.
Lou, can I ask, is there any truth in the rumours that I heard about ESPN potentially cancelling Friday night fights? Is that correct?
I've heard the same stuff that you've heard, that they'll stop the Friday night fight series around Memorial Day, the end of May. That's what I've heard. But I mean, it probably makes some sense because I don't think that they're making a lot of money selling advertising either on those fight cards. So when an ESPN watches a load of other networks start getting programming through time buys, they probably say we should join those networks. I mean, I think, don't you prefer to get paid as opposed to paying?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, well there you go. So do they. So does ESPN.
Look, just moving off that just now, as we've heard some reports that Sergio Martinez is he's doing a lot of rehab just now. Some people would probably say that maybe his best option would be to retire now. What is the latest with Sergio Martinez? Would you prefer to see him retire or maybe have one farewell fight?
What I prefer to see him do and what he does, or what I prefer to see him do is largely irrelevant. I respect him as a man, and he's going to make the right decision for himself. I mean, I know him well enough to know the reason he hasn't announced anything yet is unless he knows he's physically able to fight, he's not going to. If he makes that determination, and Samson and I, see that he's in solid, physical shape, then I could see him having a comeback fight. And as to whether or not that would be his last fight, my sense would be that he probably would leave his option open. I'm sure there's a part of Sergio that doesn't want to go out the way he did. So maybe it would just be a one and done, have one fight against somebody that's not a world beater, but that's somewhat credible and see if you can perform well enough to continue. And then if he performs well enough in that fight, maybe he takes one fight. I don't see any long campaign for Sergio Martinez. I'm not sure that he is going to come back. I don't think he's sure he's going to come back until he knows he's completely physically sound. And if he did come back, I don't think you'd ever see a Golovkin fight or any or that type of fight. I don't think that will ever happen.
Well, I mean, I think quite obviously the Golovkin thing is no longer of great interest to people because of.
Well, it shouldn't be. Why let's not even talk about it. I'm just making the point.
What do you think about a Cotto rematch? I mean, was it simply?
Why? For what reason? Well, no, I don't see that as going to what your partner just said. I don't think there'd be much of a market for it.
No, I mean, I'm a big fan of Sergio. It's obviously the Golovkin
No,
fight.
so am I, but honestly, I have to go on that one. I think your partner just answered that question you raised. Because that particular fight, the way it went, I don't think that there would be a market for it.
Fair enough.
Sorry, Lou. Andy Lee recently obviously grabbed a portion of the middleweight crown. Are you happy to see him finally get his chance to grab the title?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thrilled. And I think we did a great job helping him get there, but he did a great job, you know, with some dramatic wins in his last few fights. Andy's earned it, you know. Andy's a great guy. He's really coming to his own as a one-shot knockout artist when he needs that punch. You know, he's one of the best guys I've worked with as a person, and I'm thrilled that he's going to be fighting in a very, very big fight in Brooklyn on April 11th at the Barclays Center against Peter Quillen. That's a big fight.
Lou, if and I know that there's some ifs involved here, but if he were able to do his business as the next fight, and Billy Joe Saunders were able to do the same, is the view to possibly make an Irish super fight over there?
Yeah, it's possible, but as your partner may know better than you know, ticket pricing and the ability to generate money right now in Ireland is very different than it is here. And my advice to any fighter, particularly one in his 30s that's campaigned for a long time, that has a family or starting a family, is it's all about the money. I think it's certainly possible. I think it's certainly possible, but I don't think Billy Joe Saunders is a star. But you know, if in order to maintain his championship, the winner of that fight's going to have to fight Billy Joe Saunders, and that's fair, and that's the rules, and that's the deal we made. So Billy Joe Saunders is next in line for that title shot.
Kyle, I believe you wanted a question, mate.
Yeah, Lou, you're probably going to be asked this about a million times, but just to go back to what we talked about earlier, who do you think will win out of Pacquiao and Mayweather, or do you want to hold your cards close to your chest?
No, I've said the same thing for 7 years, so I'm not going to hold anything close to my chest. I don't see Manny Pacquiao beating Mayweather. I don't. And if Mayweather wants to make it easy, I think he can make it easy. If he wants to make it exciting, then he gives Pacquiao more of a shot. But I think that Mayweather is the better fighter, the more skilled fighter, and has more left in the tank right now.
Thank you.
Lou, obviously, Jermaine Taylor, he's been stripped of his IBF title. It looks like Hassan Nandam's going to be fighting for that one. Give me a take on the recent happenings with Jermaine Taylor. I mean, what is the current situation? Is he still under observation or whatever it is? Is he still getting looked at by doctors or whatever?
He was. He's been under observation. I think he was released from the facility. But, you know, obviously Jermaine has a lot of issues and problems he has to work out. And like I've said many times, I'm not even considering a boxing question or anything involving Jermaine. It's really, he's got to get his life together, and he's got legal issues he has to deal with. And I don't believe that I'll ever be promoting another Jermaine Taylor fight. Right now, my concern is as a human being, as a friend, that I want to see him get his life together. He's going to have to deal with legal consequences of some of his actions, and hopefully that'll turn out well for him, and hopefully he'll be able to get his life back in order.
The other thing as well, you still looking after Jojo Dan, yeah?
Yeah, he'll be fighting...
Kell Brook.
Kell Brook, that's a very tough fight, but I think that Jojo's a tough guy, and I think he's going to give Kell Brook a real good run.
I was just going to ask, actually, I mean, do you think maybe Jojo Dan's going to be getting him at the right time after coming off that terrible slashing?
I'm sorry.
I say, well,
I think Jojo Dan's getting him at the right time.
Yeah.
So I think that you know, this, you know, to the extent to which Jojo's got a good shot to win, I think this makes that shot a little bit better. Obviously, when you fight Kell Brook on Kell Brook's home turf, that's a very difficult fight.
Lou, I'm just curious. I mean, I know that obviously, as we just said, the fight is well past its expiration date. But with the Golovkin, for a while when we were talking about Golovkin, Sergio, I'm going to assume you had talks with Tom Loeffler and stuff. What kind of
I never had talks. I mean, I never had talks with him really in any serious manner.
Okay.
And by the way, I maintained that the fight would have happened 5 years ago. I still would have liked my fighter's chances, but I think Golovkin's a great fighter. And I think right now, I said this, and actually I said this before the Cotto fight, well before the Cotto fight, and I did not, by the way, all the morons who think that I was aware of some leg injury are fucking idiots, because we never really sent Sergio into the ring knowing he was damaged goods, but I can tell you that I don't think he had the best medical care or the best doctors in Spain, and I think a lot of what we believed about his physical soundness was more his optimism than it was medical reality, and I think he had doctors that were pumping smoke up his rear end. But on, you know, the Golovkin, certain times guys just don't intersect. And this, I mean, even before the Cotto fight, You have a guy on the who's approaching 40, who as skilled as he is, and I did think he beat Martin Murray in Argentina because Murray blew the last 2 rounds. I did think, and he wasn't 100% for that fight. He hasn't been 100% for years. But he beat Chavez, soundly. I think he was a great fighter. But Golovkin was coming into his young prime. I mean, it's literally the prime of his career, and Sergio was already on the other side of his career. And that fight, timing just didn't work.
Well, of course. But what I was going to say was, basically, if you were managing Golovkin's career right now, I mean, what would you do to get him a big fight? Because we just see him blasting these guys.
It's largely partially up to HBO. Because to be honest with you, they have Andre Ward. I don't give a fuck about most. I don't think there's a 68 matchup for Andre Ward I give a shit about. Do you? So maybe say to Andre, and I would sit down with Golovkin and say you're the same fighter at 68 or 66 as you are at 60. He's not going to be a worse fighter. I'd love to see Golovkin fight Andre Ward. HBO can make that happen. Just have the backbone to push him. That's the fight I'd like to see.
Well, I mean, of course, but I mean, I'm going to assume Ward probably wants to take a tune-up first and get back in form.
Okay, well, Ward could take the tune-up, but I don't want to see. Here's what I don't want to see. There's still guys out there that are talented. I don't want to see a guy with no chance. Murray was a fine opponent, and Golovkin handled it like the champ he is and did what he was supposed to do. Murray was brave. He didn't have enough punching power. I mean, if Murray could punch, Murray would have really been in that fight, but he can't. But I don't want to see a Golovkin in a 20-1 fight where there are better guys out there. But as long as he's fighting the best available guy, I got no problem with that. He's doing what he's supposed to do. And then the big fight, I do believe the big fight down the road would be a Ward. I think that's the biggest fight down the road.
What about Canelo and Golovkin?
I hate that fight for Canelo, but I mean for the fans, I like the fight. But that'd be one good way to end a young career. I mean, if I had Canelo, I would have let him near that fucking fight. I'd be a fucking moron if he managed Canelo to let that fight happen. Got zero chance to get his ass whooped all over the fucking ring, worse than Mayweather did it. It's a bad matchup, much bigger, Golovkin, the bigger, stronger guy. No need for that fight if you have a young kid like Canelo. That's the kind of thing that, the fight with Mayweather. Mayweather's not a puncher, not someone that's going to do permanent damage, not a guy that's going to so fuck your psyche up that you're never the same fighter. Even though I thought Mayweather spanked him and embarrassed him, he didn't hurt him. Golovkin would hurt him, and that's just. If I had Canelo, I'd never do that. Never do that.
Lou, just before we let you go, I mean, obviously Miguel Cotto.
If Canelo was 32 or 34, maybe you do it. Not when the kid's 24, 25 years old. You don't do it.
Absolutely.
Lou, just before we let you go, Miguel Cotto is now standing on the sidelines. He's seen Pacquiao and Mayweather sign up to fight each other. The Canelo fights doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon. If you were managing them, who would you be looking at to get him in the ring with next? I mean, they're talking Rios, Bradley. Neither of those fights that I want to see. Who do you want to see Cotto win with?
Cotto? I mean, I'd like to see Cotto win with Canelo as a fan, but it's not happening. But that's the fight I'd like to see. But apparently it's not happening. I don't want to see Rios in with Cotto. That's a mismatch.
Can you see him?
What about?
What?
Sorry, I was going to say, can you see him beating any other
Cotto eats
true
up too.
middleweights?
I like Brandon. Brandon's a fun fighter. Keep him fighting fights that he's competitive in. You know what I mean? I mean, you can't. Cotto's too big and strong for Rios.
So if it was down to Bradley or Khan, both of which have been talked about, what would you like to see?
For who?
For Cotto. Cotto is apparently the three names.
Cotto and Tim Bradley? I'll be honest with you, neither of those fights interest me. Khan's a fucking welterweight, for Christ's sake. I mean, come on. You want to see that? I don't want to see that. Tim Bradley against Cotto?
I mean, those are the two names that have been thrown out there. I mean, I think we'd all...
Good. Well, then if they think that they can get a big audience and make money with it, God bless. I don't think those are pay-per-view fights. I don't know a lot of people are going to pay for that.
I mean, the thing is that
you guys have a radio show. Like, you think either of those fights is competitive?
I'm really interested in either of those fights, to be honest with me. I want to see Cotto win with a legit middleweight. That's who I want to see Cotto win with.
Well, of course. I don't want to see him with a welterweight. You can move up 2 weight classes and expect people to buy that? Come on.
But on that point, who do you think
I mean,
Cotto could beat
I
at the
throw
break?
it to, look, I didn't want to answer the question. I want to hear your answer. You think either one of those guys has a chance against Miguel Cotto?
Rios or Bradley? Definitely not. Not up at 155, 156, or whatever it is. I mean, if you look at Rios against Alvarado, although Alvarado had his own problems, I felt that was the greatest condition I've seen Rios in at 147. And if
but
Rios should stay at 147.
Alvarado wasn't even there.
That's true.
There. And what weight did they fight that fight at?
147.
Okay, why am I hearing 147s for the middleweight champion of the world? You guys all hate catchweights. All you guys on the internet and blogs or whatever, you make big stinks when they're a catchweight. Why am I hearing a 147-pounder discussed for the middleweight champion of the world?
Well, I mean, because Cotto isn't really a middleweight.
Personally, I'd rather see a hard-working kid like a Toriano Johnson, even though he's a legitimate middleweight.
Great fight.
I'd rather see Sergio Mora. He'll give Cotto a better fight than any of the three guys you named. I mean, that's self-serving. I promote him. But if you're going to put him in with a boxer anyway, put him in with one his own size.
But will Cotto fight these guys? I mean, Cotto seems to only be interested in the big money fights at the moment.
Well, you really believe Amir Khan is a big money fight, or that Tim Bradley is a big money fight?
Bigger than Sergio Mora and Toreno Johnson.
They're all HBO fights. None of those are pay-per-view fights. The public's not stupid. You guys aren't stupid. If they announce Tim Bradley, you're not going to say he's way too small and he's a boxer. How the fuck's he going to be Cotto? Okay. I don't know. I have no interest in that fight, and I'm not being a hater. I just want to see him, middleweight champion, defend your middleweight belt.
I absolutely agree about.
If there was a really terrific 54-pounder, then go ahead. Then go ahead and do that. I mean, if it's a terrific 54-pounder, make the fight.
Obviously, the fight.
Yeah, I think Andrade would be a great fight, but again, I mean, these guys are all high risk, low reward.
I'd rather see Andrade. He's more of his own size. It's more of and he's young and fresh. I'd rather see that. I don't think it's big, but I don't think the other ones are big either. I just. By the way, and here, it's funny. I hear all the criticism lodged at certain people that it seems a lot of press these days have issues with, and then you're talking about a guy like Cotto, and every name you launched at me was a welterweight. That doesn't bother you?
It doesn't bother me, but at the end of the day, there's Lewis. Who is he going to fight? I mean, we all want to see him either fight Canelo. He's not going to fight Canelo. I mean, he's not a middleweight. We all know he's not a middleweight. At the very best, he is a blown-up welterweight. So who at middleweight is going to fight him, or is he actually going to fight?
All right, but I don't even want to hear the name of a guy 2 weight classes lower. I don't want to hear it. You want to throw at me a 54-pounder and make the fight at 57? I'm okay with that if there's the right 54-pounder. I don't even know right now who is the best 54-pounder available to the HBO side of the table. But I would rather see. I'll give you examples of fighters. I'd rather see a Lara against Cotto. I'd rather see. I mean, again, he's a boxer. He's not the most scintillating style, but he's size-wise, it's an appropriate fight, and he can box his ass off. Sometimes he moves a little too much for my taste, but I'd rather see that. It's more of a competitive fight.
Well, the fight we all want to see is Cotto versus Golovkin, but surely Golovkin absolutely
I don't
destroys
believe
him.
that. I think the Golovkin knocks him through a wall. But you know what? I'd like to see it. I think Cotto showed a lot of strength at 60, even though obviously Sergio wasn't Sergio. But I think that that was the strongest Cotto I've ever seen in his career. So I mean, Cotto, and I'd pay to see Cotto and Golovkin. Yeah, I would. I think you would too, and I think the fans would. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Cotto wants any part of that animal. That's what I think.
No way. Agree 100%.
Lou, looks like you've got a lot of situations going in the background there. We'll let you get going at this time, mate, but appreciate your time.
Good talking to you, and I think this is going to be an interesting year for boxing. So, boxing fans, hang in there because it's going to be a fun ride this year, and I think that hopefully in 12 months from now there'll be more people listening to your show.
Good stuff, mate. Thanks a lot for that.
Thanks for coming, Lou.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
That was Lou DiBella. He's quite a fiery character, isn't he?
Yeah. He always is.
Just reading some of the comments there on the Mixer chat, actually, apparently we've got a bit of a batter in there, like Martin Murray there.
Well, to be honest with you, I'll never get bottle it from anyone. But where he's quite a big name and that, as soon as he started kicking off, even I was like, fucking hell, I don't want to go at him because he can even talk over me. So I'll just let him get on with it, mate. And usually I'd be like, fuck you, mate, you're having it. But he's got some strong opinions, mate, and he voices them. So I'll let him get on with it. And that's me.
The thing is, that's what we want. We want to hear guys from inside the sport, and we want to hear those opinions, those strong-worded opinions. We know what Lou DiBella is all about at the end of the day, as well as. I think it's some people. I didn't want to kind of talk over them because then if you listen back to the recording, it can be kind of garbled sometimes as well, and the sound wasn't all that great. But it's good to get them on anyway.
Can I jump in quickly, Andy? I wanted to make the point to him, and he kept saying, "Why are we talking about welterweights? Why are we talking about welterweights?" I really wanted to make the point, but it would have been too much of a. But no, I wanted to make the point that Amir Khan and Brandon Rios both weigh in about the same in the ring as Cotto does as a middleweight. That was the point I wanted to make, but I thought it would have just been too long. It would have jumped down the rabbit hole, and he might have kicked off. But that's the point I wanted to make. That Khan weighed in at 160 odd for the last fight, and someone's getting feedback. Sorry.
On you go, mate.
That was my point. You know what I mean? I wanted to say, if they weigh the same amount in the ring as Cotto does, then what's the problem of making the fight? But he was insistent of, why are you talking about welterweights? And it was nothing to do with us. We were saying names that we've heard online, not that we wanted to see Rios. And I think it was lost, not in translation, but certainly lost in terms of down the line. You know what I mean? I don't think you really got what we were on about in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, well, I know what you're saying, but we're reporting to them the names that are getting fed to us on Boxing Scene or whatever it is. I mean, the two names I've seen this week have been Bradley and Rios. I really don't know. I mean, that's just the way it is with him, actually. I mean, the background noise is my wash machine, mate. Don't worry about it. What I was going to mention to him, actually, when people are mentioning, listen, don't throw welterweights at me. I was going to mention about Henry Armstrong fighting for the welterweight title as a lightweight against Servano Garcia. Adam, would you stop that?
Andy, I was just going to say we need to be a bit careful because we're getting these reputable people on. Listeners are going to think that we're professional outfit, not just matchroom haters. So could be changing times for the pod.
True. Alex, do me a favour, mate, and see if you can get me the balance on the Skype account for getting Dillian White on, and see if we can possibly get him on. Just to let you know, obviously with the big fight being announced as the proposed fight between Kirkland and Canelo has been put back till the 9th, I think it is. Is it the 9th of May? That fight's been put back till, so it looks like that fight's been finally signed off. I think there was some sort of rumour going about that Kirkland hadn't been signed off yet, I think.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, it's pretty customary to sign these things when the fight gets closer. I mean, you just get an agreement in terms and everything, and they announce it. But sometimes fights aren't signed until maybe a couple of weeks before. It gives the A-side latitude, just in case something big comes up. What if Manny gets injured in sparring or something? Does Floyd still want to fight in May or something? Maybe you could sign on, and fight him. I mean, the point is that you usually give yourself latitude, and I wouldn't be surprised if Kirkland isn't signed yet. But at the same time, I think Kirkland doesn't want to sort of give to Cotto. It leaves Cotto now hanging out there, and I think it'll give him more negotiating power now if he leaves Cotto flapping in the wind. And the next time they come to the table, Cotto's going to treat him as an equal, not as a undeserving B-side.
Just before we do move on, actually, I was wanting to mention a couple of things. Well, first off, the Abraham Smith rematch drew in over 4 million viewers last night. It'll be interesting to see what Golovkin pulled in last night on Channel 5, and it'll be double interesting to see what Carol Frampton pulls in next week on ITV.
And that was 4 million on German television alone, if I recall correctly.
Yeah,
that's great numbers. That is.
You wonder because I think, from what I understand as well, is the reason why the two fights didn't clash last night is because the same German channel picked up Golovkin. I wonder if they did the same numbers for the Golovkin fight.
And Abraham fought last night as if 4 million people were watching.
Yep. Now, before we move on to Twitter questions, I want to ask anybody that's seen the fight, just jump in, whoever's seen it. David Price, Eddie Hearn tweeted out that he's practically what he's saying is he's regressed. Is that the case?
That is the case. He's fighting. He's fighting like he's looking for confidence. He should be doing that in sparring. I would question the quality and the quantity of his sparring because getting into the ring and looking like he's not developed from the last fight. If you see what I mean. Yeah, it's tough times. It really is tough times for Pricey, because even if he's obviously deliberately taken himself away from Liverpool and England, etc., and he's still getting found out, as it were, by us and other promoters, and people are still questioning his performances and ability. It's tough times.
Right. Okay. What we'll do is, if we get a couple of questions going here on the Twitter stuff, and then we'll see if we can get Dillian White on for a couple of minutes. Steve, is everybody still around okay, yeah?
Yeah, I'm here.
Steve, Paul's asking, after Fighter A beats Fighter B, will the podcast celebrate TBE and will Brian King stop ducking?
Oh, mate. There's no way that Floyd Mayweather will be the best ever, even if he beats Pacquiao via the worst one-sided beating you've ever seen.
They were saying he was the best ever, Steve, after he beat fucking Saul Alvarez.
Who was saying that though? Him and the guy next to him?
Boxrec Brandon, I remember saying that.
No chance.
Big Digger and Ellerby pretty much the only people I heard saying that.
No, there's no chance he's the best ever. I mean,
you find. Sorry, Steve. Go on, mate.
No, go on ahead, Carl.
I was going to say, you'll find that anyone who says he's the best ever, when you ask them to start comparing him to other fighters, they say, I don't know much about that fighter. And you'll say, so what? I always say to them, Pepsi is the best tasting cola in the world. And then I'll say, have you tasted Coca-Cola? No, I've never tasted it. That's basically what it is. They say it's the best ever. They've got no point of comparison whatsoever. They're maybe... He's the best ever that I've heard of, is what they mean. Because they haven't fucking heard of no one.
Well, exactly. And not only that, but I mean, I let me just say this though. I will say this. I think people would talk about it more seriously if he A, stopped Manny, and B, beat Golovkin at 160. I think if he did those two things, I think he would be very much in the conversation. You may disagree with it, you may agree with it, whatever, but I think he would very much launch himself into that conversation.
He'd be top 20 for sure. Top 20 for sure.
Top 10, I think. He fights Golovkin, and if he did, no chance he beats him.
He could fight. Golovkin would welcome a fight with Mayweather even at 154. I believe Golovkin would come down for that. So there's no reason really why it can't be made, but the reason is Mayweather don't want it, obviously.
But you could also be draining something out of Golovkin coming in and wait out anyway. So
possibly, yeah. But I think Golovkin's one of them that Abel Sanchez even said last week that they would feasibly would like to stay at 160. They will feasibly fight anyone from 154 to 168.
Golovkin would go down, but there's no way Floyd's calling him down, and regardless of the Pacquiao fight, it's gone. There's no way Floyd's going to be the best ever now. I mean, even if he maybe moves up and fights Klitschko or something, it's out of his hands. But Brian King's coming over to Belfast on Saturday. I'm going to have a chat with Brian, and hopefully he's going to ring in when I do the guest hosting, so it's going to happen.
We might
Big news
as well.
You guys mentioned Ellerby earlier about thinking he's TBE. What's going on with that little love affair now? I mean, I thought he was exiled from the Floyd matters, but apparently he was very essential to putting this fight together.
He's obviously got back down on his knees and done a lot of seconds.
I mean, who really knows? The thing with Floyd's team, and the reason why there were so many false alarms about that certain fight being made before it ultimately was made, was that they don't talk to the media. They embrace sort of the Heyman ethic of keeping the media in the dark, and as a result, no one really knows what the day-to-day happenings are within Floyd Mayweather's fold and within his old Mayweather Promotions and his businesses and everything like that. I mean, they keep a very low media profile, and I think that's one of the reasons why there was so many questions about this fight being made, not being made, whatever, until it finally was.
I tell you one thing, Andy, after last night's pods and tonight's pod, the Asylum is becoming the go-to place for the Fighter A, Fighter B discussion.
Yeah, well, enjoy it now, mate, because as I say, next Thursday is the one and only time people get to call in about it, and then that is it banned until the last week, or up to fight week. Next question comes in from Jack Balcom, sorry. I never saw the fight last night, guys, but anybody who can weigh in on it, where would you rank Hughie Fury in the British heavyweight scene just now?
I actually think he could beat Chagayev for the WBA regular now.
Absolutely. I didn't see the fight, but I still say absolutely. Chagayev is awful, and the guy Huey beat him convincingly from what I've read and from the scorecards, and the guy is no joke, and he's coming back from quite a bit of time off.
What we'll do now is I think Alex is just going to attempt to try and get heavyweight contender Dillian White on the line. As you know, Dillian is fighting on the card over in Belfast next Saturday against some Georgian fella. Is it Beka Lobajadze or something like his name is? Last night there was no way I could have even attempted to pronounce that name.
You might have done it better last night.
Maybe I Lobajadze.
Just quickly on Floyd before we get Mr. White on. I'm borderline casual when it comes to historical fighters. He's probably the best. The simplistic way I could say it is the best I've seen, but he simply can't be the best ever because, in simplistic terms, he don't knock enough people out. Sorry.
What about Mayweather?
Yeah, Mayweather. Yeah.
Oh, you don't need to be a knockout artist to be the greatest ever. Don't worry about that.
Alex, will we come along with that call, mate?
Yeah, just getting it done now. One sec.
No worries.
Christine's loving tonight's podcast, by the way.
What's that, mate?
Can we go over a bit who Dillian White is for people who might not know? I mean, I know just a little bit about him. Apparently, he beat up Anthony Joshua in the amateurs. Is that right?
That's right, mate. Well, apparently that's right anyway, yeah. Was that a sparring session? I can't remember.
And right now he's a pro.
No, I believe it was Anthony Joshua's 34th amateur fight, so he was green, but I mean, ultimately, I mean, it's still a win. So I think that's going to build some interest here. Of course, Mike Tyson fought what's his name, the guy that beat him in the Olympic trials. And that was a big fight when it happened. And so ultimately, I think that this could be made into a big fight over in the UK.
Hello?
Dylan!
Hey, what's that?
It's Andy Patterson, mate. I was speaking to you on Twitter.
How you doing, mate? You alright?
Not bad, mate, not bad. Just to let the listeners know, as we've got Dillian White on the line, he's 13-0 heavyweight contender. Dylan, you're fighting on the Belfast card next Saturday against a Georgian Beka Lobajadze. Have you managed to see any footage of this guy yet?
I saw an old fight of him, I think it was 2012 or something, when he was in the WSB.
Right, okay. Is anything handy? Is he in shape for a change? Put it that way, because we've seen a lot of heavyweights out of shape nowadays.
Yeah, he looks in good shape, and he's undefeated, so I'm sure he'll show up in good shape on Saturday night,
Yep, definitely. I mean, I take it your fight's going to be on ITV4, is that correct?
Yeah. I'll be live on ITV4 in between 9:30 and 9:40.
Right, no problem. I mean, you've been active over 2014 after coming back from your ban. Obviously, it'd be good to get back in the ring again. Where do you hope to be this time? Obviously, by the end of 2015, do you want to be knocking on the door for a British title shot?
Well, the way things is going now, I might be knocking on the door the British title by April, June, to be honest, because the board has just made me put me and Gary Cornish up for British title eliminator. We're going to the 11th of March for purse bid, and then until the end of June to make the fight. I'm hoping that he takes the fight, because if he takes the fight, I beat him, then I get to fight whoever when Tyson Fury vacates the belt, because I think Tyson will vacate the belt and move on to the title. So could be me and Joshua's for eliminator, could be me and him, or it could be me and Saxton, me and any one of those guys,
Just obviously mentioning Joshua, obviously you two guys have got history. I've been noticing some comments between on Twitter and stuff. How conceivable or how feasible is it about potentially that fight? I mean, obviously it needs to be, I would imagine it'll need to be for a title of some sort, but maybe even a world title down the line. So you'll be looking at a few years away before that fight potentially happening, surely.
Yeah, well, to be honest, the thing with me and Joshua is we fought as amateur. with my first fight, it was, he had a few fights while coming by way of knockouts, and basically I just started boxing for a few months, and my coach was looking for somebody to fight, and they couldn't get anybody to fight. The Joshua fight came up, and my coach said no to the fight because my coach said, the guy's had a few fights and he's knocked everybody up. My coach actually said no to the fight. I said to my coach, it's up to you. I don't mind. I'll fight anybody. So in the end, we looked for a few more people, couldn't get anybody. Then the fight got made. We fought and I beat him. And me and him was actually cool after the fight because I fought him a little while after. And we was cool. He was sparring Cesaro and I was sparring Cesaro as well. We was cool, and then after the Olympics, he must have been drunk or something. He said some bad things about me in the boxing news. So I was quite pissed off. So I got back at him about it. And then that's
So wait, let me just say, did you say, Dylan, that this was he had a couple of fights and that was actually your first amateur fight?
Yeah. He had 4 fights with 4 knockouts. It was my first amateur fight. And then we fought. As you can see in the fight, I had no skills, but I had more heart and more determination than him, and that's what won me the fight.
Did you have a Muay Thai background, Dillian? Did you do Muay Thai? Is that right?
Yeah, I had a few kickboxing fights as a kid growing up. I had a few kickboxing fights, but it's not as much as what everyone's made out and all that rubbish. But I had a few kickboxing fights. But to be honest, I think the kickboxing into my boxing, to be honest, because it was that when I went to boxing, I had to completely learn everything all over again, and my stance was wrong. I was always wide open. I had no defense, so I wish I had gone to boxing instead of kickboxing in the first place when I was younger,
Dylan, it's well known that fighters are psychological creatures, and even it was both in early in your career and early in Joshua's career.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you did apparently, batter him about the ring. And do you think that if that fight someday gets made, do you think that, in the back of his mind, the fact that you beat him gives you a psychological edge in a fight with him at some point?
Well, see, in life, if you spar someone or you fight someone and the person knocks you down or knocks you out, or even if you fight them 10 years later and you've won all the fights, in the back of your mind, that person can hurt you and that person carries a punch. So I don't care what anybody say how much you improve or whatever psychological counseling you've gone through or whatever. I still think it's still something that's always in the back of your mind that makes you think, this man put me on the floor before and there's a good chance he can do it again. And I've improved since then. I'm punching more harder. I've become a lot more skillful, and I'm still improving every day and still getting better and better. I'm fighting regularly now, so I think, but we was kids then, he's growing up, I've grown up, but I still think he knows in the back of his mind that I can hurt him and I will hurt him.
Dylan, we've got to ask, mate, obviously you've had a slight mishap in your career, and obviously you got banned for 2 years for on an over-the-counter product that I had. It was laced with something, I think it was MHA. I think it was something similar to what Enzo Maccarinelli got banned for. Did you inquire much as to why you got a 2-year ban and Maccarinelli only got so many months?
To be honest, Sam, I have no idea what happened there because Enzo Maccarinelli, Tony Dodson, Ryan Barrett, we all got done for the same thing. They all got less time than me. I don't know why I got 2 years. I don't know what happened there. We all got done for the same exact supplement. It's something that's not banned at all. It's only, you got to stop taking it 12 hours before competition. I never had no idea about it, anything like that. Nobody never told me anything about it, It wasn't hardcore drugs or anything. But it's crazy. There's 4 guys in the same country that got banned for the same stuff, and those other 3 guys, they're more professional than me, they're higher level than me. We all got done for the same stuff, and I got the worst time. I don't know, maybe I was just unlucky, or maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to make any excuses and say, it's this or it's that. It's just something that's happened, and to be honest, it's been one of the best things that's happened to me throughout my career. I've learned so much, and I've got rid of some negative people around me, and now I've got proper people around me. I've got nutritionists now and everything, so, it's been a proper learning curve for me,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, as I say, you got a 2-year ban. I mean, did you comply fully with the UKAD on any, like, obviously they held a meeting with you, obviously had an inquiry. I mean, obviously, I mean, did you fully cooperate with them?
Yeah, I fully cooperated with them. I held my hands up. I even appealed it, and they accepted that I took. They accepted that I ingested the supplement naively, not knowing what I was taking. And they're still, you know, they even said to me, "Oh yeah, we're going to give you, we're looking at possible 4 to 6 months. 4 to 6 months." That's what they said, because I admit to it straight away. I held my hands up. I never had anything, because in my eyes, I admit to it. Held my hands up. I said, "Okay, yes, this is the supplements I was using." I named everything. Go take a lady said, "Oh, it's in this." I say to her, "Oh, it's a new supplement that a guy at the strength and conditioning place is a world champion guy in another sport recommended to me at the time." I went to a licensed sports shop and brought it, and I explained everything to them, and they accepted that I took it not knowing what I was taking, but I think they said, "Oh, it's negligence. They done me for negligence or something." And then they said, "Okay, we're looking at 4 to 6 months," and then all of a sudden they just went the complete opposite way and gave me the maximum penalty, you know. So I was like, you know, I was really baffled about it, but you know, it's life and stuff happens, you know.
Yeah, at the same time as you've obviously the fighter himself's got to take. Obviously, he's got to be very careful what he takes. I mean, this is it. Yeah. Jack 3D. I think. What is that stuff? Is it like a supplement for what?
It's just I think it's just like, you know, like Red Bull, because I don't like drinking Red Bull, because Red Bull gives me palpitation. Red Bull, when I drink Red Bull, it makes my heart beat really fast, man. You know, so I was looking into, obviously, a different sort of energy I'm supplement for training, you know, and, you know, boxing is, in boxing, a lot of things is passed on from one guy to another guy. It's like a champion tell you, "Oh yeah, I run at 5 in the morning, I train at this." It's all second-hand knowledge. It's not, and it's all about experience and stuff. So this guy told me this is what he was using. Obviously, somebody who I look up to was at a much higher level than me in training. So he said to me, "Oh yeah, take this." Me naively, not thinking there was anything that could be wrong with it, because obviously he's using it. Went to the shop. I asked the guy in the shop, "Oh, I'm a professional boxer. I'm after a sports supplement, pre-workout," and he showed me 3, and then he found the Jack 3D. This is the popular one that everybody's using at this moment in time, and it sells a lot and stuff. So I said, "Okay, all right, no worries, I'll give it a try." And then I was giving it a try. Unfortunately, they banned it 2 weeks after I brought it. I was in training camp for John McDermott at the time for the English title. They banned it 2 weeks or 3 weeks after I was in camp. They banned it. And then I had a fight in between training for McDermott, which was at the Blue Water between then. And I failed the drug test then. And then it was, when they called me, I just cooperated straight away. I didn't say, "Oh, it was this, it was that." I told them the honest truth. "Oh, I got it. Where I buy it, everything." And then, you know, I still end up with 2 years. So I don't understand what happened there.
Dillian, just before I'll bring one of my colleagues in, you know, if you don't want to answer this next question, I fully appreciate. I mean, you've got your license back. You just want to kind of continue making your living, but you think there's some sort of politics with the board tied up in this somewhere along the line?
Listen, I'm not gonna
That's fair enough.
You know,
that's fair enough.
I'll let people decide whatever happens.
No worries, mate. Alex.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what is your general opinion of, you know, drug taking in this sport, and do you think that, you know, the punishments that are handed out to other people that are, you know, legitimately are trying to cheat and take these drugs, do you think that, you know, that's sort of harsh enough? Obviously, you faced a 2-year ban and you got the book thrown at you, but do you believe that, you know, that is enough? Do you think cheaters should be punished harsher or a bit less, or should there be a bit more understanding? You know, what's your take on it?
Listen, it depends on the circumstance, I feel. You know, it depends on the circumstance, I feel. This is a bit of a tricky question for me, to be honest, because I'm not going to say taking drugs is wrong or it's right. I'm not going to say that, because you got to take circumstances into consideration. My circumstance compared to other people's circumstances is different, you know, so I can't say, "Oh, this person should be punished worse or this person should be punished more or less." because my circumstances, I ingested a stimulant by accident with a product I brought in an over-the-counter licensed sports shop, which I then went back to the shop after being banned and told the UKD this stuff is still in the shop, this is the shop number, this is their registration, etc., etc., and they said there's nothing they can do. So it depends. Obviously, if somebody is injecting steroids or whatever, it's completely different from my situation, so I can't really comment on it too much, you know.
Dylan, just very briefly, mate, before we let you go, and we appreciate your time, mate. Obviously, you're only 26. You've been over in Germany or Austria, sparring with the Klitschko. You know, I think it was Vladimir Klitschko. Give me your take on the experience and that, and where would you rank Vladimir Klitschko as an all-time great?
I think Vladimir Lennox Lewis very underestimated. You know, that these guys are good fighters. They was at the top for a long. Vladimir, even the thing that impressed me the most about Vladimir is at his age he's still so motivated and he still wants to achieve so much and he still trains hard and he's professional. You know what I mean? You know, a lot of people don't like the way he fights and the style he fights, but it's effective and efficient for him. But at 38 years old, 39, I think he's or something, he still spars 12, sometimes 15 rounds, 4 or 5 days a week for 3 to 4 weeks. So, you know, and he's still winning the fights and beating everybody who put in front of him. You know, a lot of people say, oh yeah, his fighting style is this, his fighting style is that. But listen, if it works for him, he's been undefeated. He's only won, he haven't won yet. So, you know, I think he's a good fighter. I think he works with his strengths. He's very patient and he's very disciplined. You know, it's like he's like the ultimate professional, to be honest.
That's good. Yeah. I think we've got one more question from Donnie before we let you go, Dylan. Donnie?
Yeah, Dylan, I'm just curious. We've had a lot of different fighters on this podcast. We've had different people who've been in with some world-class fighters, as sparring partners, things like that. I guess what my question is, I'm just wondering, what do you... first of all, actually, I have 2 questions for you. First of all, are you a fan of the sport when you're not in training for your next fight or something like that? Do you watch a lot of...
Yeah. I'm a massive boxing fan. I love boxing. I've always been a massive boxing fan from I was a kid. My dad boxed and my grandfather boxed, like bare knuckle boxing like years and years ago. But they didn't tell me until I was a bit older because my dad never wanted me to box. But I've always been a massive boxing fan. You know, I do even go, when there's boxing on the weekend, I don't go out or anything. Like last night there was Murray and Paul Smith. I was switching in between both channels, watching a bit of Paul Smith, a bit of Murray, a bit. You know what I mean? I'm a massive boxing fan. I love boxing. I love boxing.
We always love to hear that because that's us too. But the other question I had for you was, you know, you said that, you know, Vladimir Klitschko still sparring 15 rounds a day. We had another guy too. He's a journeyman heavyweight. His name's Clarence Tillman III, and he spent some time in the Mayweather gym. And he came on our show once, and he said that Floyd Mayweather trained in ways that he didn't think it was possible for other human beings to train. You know, going for 10-mile runs after 15, 20 rounds of sparring in the daytime, things like that. I mean, when you look up, do you look up to some of these other fighters? And if so, like, what fighters are your inspiration as you move forward in your career?
You know, I watch a lot of old fighters. You know, it's funny. I look up to some new fighters and a lot of old fighters. Like I look up to people like Larry Holmes, Dwight Muhammad, Carey, Ron Lyle, George Foreman, Kenny Norton, Joe Frazier. Those are the kind of guys I look up to because those guys are absolute machines. You know, Muhammad Ali. Those kind of guys was great guys. Lennox Lewis. Currently, I look up to Vladimir Klitschko to a certain extent. I look up to Carl Froch. You know, I look up to guys who can box or also warriors. You know what I mean? I look up to. So it's a mixture. It's a mixture. I look for different things in different fighters. I look for fighters who's sort of similar style to me. A lot of people watch, you know, just Ali and Floyd Mayweather and try to be like those kind of guys. My style is not that kind of style. So I watch the guys who who I can take things from, like a Joe Frazier, a Ron Loyal, a George Foreman, Kenny Norton, Joe Frazier, those kind of guys, you know, a Carl Frutch, who's an all-out warrior, you know what I mean? You know, those kind of guys, you know, so, you know, I've got a wide range of inspiration from different fighters, you know, we'll look up to.
Last question, Dylan, before we let you go. Prediction for Saturday, knockout?
I predict I'll get the win, you know what I mean? Whichever way it comes. If it comes by knockout, then good. If it doesn't, then I'm ready to go to the 10 rounds. I always train for the distance, but in the back of my mind, I always want to score a knockout because, you know, that's one thing I've learned, that whenever people go to watch heavyweights, they want to see a knockout, at least somebody trying to get a knockout or put in the next certain fight. So I try and give the fans or the people what they pay their money for, you know.
Dylan, thanks a lot for that, mate. All the best on Saturday, and hopefully we can get you back on again at some point.
No problem. You have my number. Give me a call anyway. Thank you very much for your time.
Cheers, Dylan. All the best.
Cheers, mate. All the best.
Right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
That was heavyweight contender Dillian White on the line there. Good to see him back in action. Just dive, guys, right back into Twitter questions. Quite a few of them here. Anybody got anything to say about the interview, though?
Nice guy, wasn't he?
He was, I think Alex mentioned as well as, you know, I think we're kind of worried, Alex, because some people were kind of saying to him not to come on the show. Is that right?
Well, I just think there's a bit of banter and a bit of wind up, but
is it?
It's you know, I'm glad he came on. He's very insightful views on his drug ban, and you know, the fact that a lot of other people were taking that supplement and got a lot less of a punishment than he did, and you know, it's interesting to see how the board deals with those sorts of things, I think, and it should be analysed a lot more.
I mean, I think that the board...
So I was just going to say, Steve had a few choice words for them on the Skype chat there, didn't you, Steve?
I always have a few choice words for the board. I've said it all before. I'm not really happy with the board at the moment, and with the rise of all these different boxing commissions, like these Malta boxing commissions, who are trying to, I think they're trying to, sanction cards in your neck of the woods, Andy. I'm not really convinced that they're the answer, but something does need to happen with the board. There needs to be some kind of reformation, and you know, the refereeing situation needs to be looked at. I'm not always convinced that the board are acting in the best interests of the fighter. You know, as Mel Crystal from the Boxing Union of Ireland said to me, politics should never get in the way of a fighter making a living. And I know that a lot of fighters are shot and past their best, and obviously the board has got to be there to, you know, help them and intervene and make sure that they're not licensed. But I think there's a lot of things that they get wrong as well. I mean, we can only take Dillian White at his word there, but if he's got a 2-year ban in those circumstances that he described, then why haven't the likes of McRanelli and Barrett and Tony Dodson got similar type of bans? You know, it's a question that needs to be asked, and you know, we'll have to take what Dillian says until we hear the other side of the story.
Exactly. And Steve, the thing is that coming from an American perspective, you have to realize over here we don't have any kind of national commission, and under the British British Boxing Board of Control standards, your fighters are tested throughout the year, isn't that right?
Yeah, I think they have to get a medical done and a scan and everything every year, don't they?
Yeah,
but aren't they subject to year-round PED?
Yeah, they are, but it depends what level they're fighting at. I think if anything below British title level doesn't get tested, I don't think.
Right. Okay, but fine. But the point is that if you are fighting a British title level or above, you are subjected to that testing. Whereas even Pacquiao and Mayweather and things like that, they're not being tested now. All right, yes, now they've signed to fight. Now the USADA or whatever is going to test them or whatever. But all that time they've been out of the ring, they haven't all that out of competition testing. It hasn't happened. And the thing is that it's a blessing and a curse to have a national commission, because when you endow a commission with this great power, you know, you give them the ability to do things like legislate year-round testing, but at the same time, you know, you give them this license to give out these disparate, unequal, perhaps, you know, in some cases, you know, light sentence type punishment where, you know, a guy like Dillian White gets 2 years of a ban, whereas a guy like McRanelli, who's maybe hooked up the right people, gets less time banned away from the sport. And it's unfortunate. So, I mean, you know, it's a double-edged sword. You can't endow a commission with this great power, and, you know, you'll get some positive benefits out of it, like the year-round testing and stuff, but the sort of flip side to that is that when you endow them with great power, it gives them the opportunity to be political. It gives them the opportunity to give out, disparate punishment to disparate parties, and that's unfortunate. So, there's no right answer sometimes. I think just basically more policing of the board, more of everything that goes on with the board and between the board and fighters and things like that, more of that being out in the open can only be a good thing.
Yeah, I think if the board opened up a bit and there was more of a democratic thing, I know a few years ago there was problems with the licence and quite a few respected people, weren't doing corners or managing anymore because of disputes with the board. I just think it's the current incarnation just needs to be looked at. There's a few things that need to be changed. I'm not even suggesting at all that there should be no board, because the board does a lot of positive things. It adds that sort of stability. It'd be like the Wild West otherwise, but it just needs looked at, and there needs to be some kind of reform within it.
Just seen on the Mixler chat, actually, apparently Coogan Cassius isn't going to Belfast, is that right?
Apparently,
he doesn't come now. I'm not sure why.
Apparently, he's had a bit of a falling out with the McGuigans, so he doesn't govern their fights.
Funny to hear. I can't believe that now.
Does he follow with quite a few people, Steve?
Who, Coogan? I don't know.
No, Barry.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
No. By the way, did you need to fill in your application form in triplicate again for Saturday night?
No, it wasn't too bad this time, actually. It was just name and email and stuff.
Alright, no worries. Moving on, did we discuss the Fury fight? I think we did.
Yeah.
Is he kicking around? Yeah, Dave Lowback's here, so I don't know, Alex, you maybe need to help him out here, but Thomas Cummins is asking, can you debate at Hazo's belief that Triple G is all hype on the podcast? What's he been saying?
Basically, it was a tweet earlier, a couple of people were saying it, that if Golovkin didn't have power, if Murray punched a bit harder, then he would have had a much harder fight last night. A lot of people believe that, Golovkin is only as good as his punch.
Oh God!
And I mean,
it's all ifs and buts. If Carl Froch didn't have a mouth, everyone would love him.
Exactly. I responded.
No, with that nose you wouldn't.
I responded, if Mike Tyson didn't have power, he'd be shit. If Floyd Mayweather didn't have his defense, he'd be rubbish. You can't say things like that. These things are integral to the boxer half the time. And Golovkin isn't just a puncher. That's very obvious, I think.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's just like saying that Kovalev is just a banger when he's not just a banger. He's obviously got well-rounded ability about him.
Exactly, I think.
Yeah, but Tony Bellew said that Kovalev's just a banger, just for the record.
Yeah.
How can anyone, frame Golovkin as just a banger? I mean, anyone who knows anything about boxing, even friggin' Egypt's like me, can see. Exactly, he's got all the skills, the footwork, the movement. He just does things so well. How can he just be framed as just a banger? That's just ridiculous.
To play devil's advocate on this, I do believe there is a certain amount of overhype that's been placed on Golovkin for a long while, long before he's sort of due the hype that he's getting now. I think he's reached a level where, the hype is almost justified, but, 2 or 3 years ago, people were talking about it, like he is now, and, saying he's going to be better than Hagler, and he's the greatest middleweight ever, and all this, and people were hoping that. I mean, that does irk people, we ourselves are pissed off by the hype surrounding, Anthony Joshua, for example, who hasn't done anything yet, and I can see that some people still hold on to those sentiments about Golovkin, but if they just step back and look at what he's done and how he's doing it, then I think you see that he is extraordinarily talented.
So, I was going to get Dave to answer that, but anyway, Dave, I can't get Dave in just now. Maybe come down to this one. Dave, you there?
Yeah, if you want me to criticize Carl Frampton, I can.
Well, we can get on to that, because obviously the fight's next week, actually, but Joseph Webb's asking, apart from Golovkin, is there any fighter you can think of just now that uses old school footwork, that basically that shifting technique that he's got? Can you think of anyone that does it better than him, or if anyone in the sport just now is actually got any better foot movement what Golovkin is and try to cut down the ring?
Roman Gonzalez. He doesn't really cut off the ring like Golovkin, but Gonzalez has got that. He's actually Nicaraguan, but he looks more like a sort of Panamanian sort of slick offensive force. Golovkin's footwork, one thing I really want to raise quickly is I cannot deal with people saying that Golovkin is Mexican style. He is clearly a Soviet style boxer. the Kazakhstan style comes from the Soviet background, and if you watch the old Kazakh boxers and the old Soviet boxers, Golovkin is exactly like them. His footwork is based on Viktor Rybakov, who was a Russian Olympian, and his left hand is based on Kostyzhu, who was Russian. And if you watch a guy called Azulbek Kilimov, who was a Kazakhstan middleweight amateur back in the 80s, him and Golovkin are exactly the same fighter. So I cannot be dealing with the whole he's Mexican style.
Kyle, I have all your Kazakhstan articles bookmarked. I've been working on a thing for law school all weekend. It's a paper. But anyways, the point is, I mean, I'm going to read them, and maybe I'll retract this comment later. But what I've seen from a lot of the former Soviet Union fighters, and remember, if we are talking about Golovkin, and you're talking about his heritage or whatever, you want to go back a generation, they are all part of that former Soviet system. I mean, a lot of these guys were straight up and stiff.
That's the thing, Donnie. You will retract it because you'll see in my thing one of the articles. I think part 4 is all about dispelling the notion that the Soviets were all straight up and stiff, because they weren't really. The straight up stiff so-called European style, that's more the kind of German style. The Soviet fighters, they were multifaceted. They could pressure, they could slip, they were good boxers. Yeah, they could stand up straight and box. You'll see Golovkin stand up straight when he moves backwards. Going forward, they cut off the ring expertly, and you'll see it in the articles, mate. Trust me.
All right. Like I said, I have them all bookmarked. I'm going to read them. Maybe I'll probably will take it back, like you say. I mean, I know you've done a lot of research on it, but I'm just saying, in the past 2 decades, the guys that have made it over to America, or the guys that have made it onto American TV, anyways, generally seem to fit that stereotype. Maybe it's not fair. But just generally from going off of what I've seen, I feel like Golovkin kind of breaks the mold in that way. I've never seen a guy from that part of the world fight the way that he has before. I mean, excluding maybe Kovalev, but that's his contemporary. So, and Kovalev kind of fits that same stereotype too. He just makes it work for him.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree with you 100%. And Abel Sanchez has obviously done work with Golovkin, because people say that, Golovkin was a lot more patient in his amateur days, which is true. But if you look at the earliest amateur footage we have of him, he was very much like he is now. He was a bit of a bulldozer. And I think when he went to the international tournaments, they've reined him in again, and now they've unleashed him again. So, I mean, I don't want to make a big fucking deal about it, but I just don't like the fact that the Kazakh school isn't getting the credit, because everybody's saying, oh wow, Golovkin's amazing because he's been trained by a Mexican or a Mexican American, and really his whole style comes from that grounding that he had as an amateur, as a kid. You know what I mean? And I think they need to get a bit more credit. That's my only bone of contention.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I mean, the thing is that Abel Sanchez has taken it upon himself to give himself credit. He says that Golovkin was more patient and stuff, and he says that he made Golovkin into a more offense-first attacking fighter, because when he realized that he had a fighter with the type of chin that Golovkin had, and the ability to sort of, intelligently slip punches or roll with them or things like that on the way in, which is a difficult skill to master, perhaps best mastered by Roberto Duran. But he said that when he saw that Golovkin had that ability... Pardon?
I mean, fuck yeah, baby.
but perhaps best mastered by him. But basically, when he saw that he had an offense-first fighter who also could, be defensively responsible while remaining on the attack, he basically says that he made him into a more attacking fighter. Maybe that's just Abel Sanchez promoting himself. But I have actually talked to him at a fight once. I had an interview set to go with him. Actually, I was at a fight at New Year's Eve, close to New Year's on December 2013, and then the recording got lost, unfortunately. But I talked to him at a card promoted by 50 Cent in New York, and that's what he said. He said that he helped to make Golovkin a more offense-first fighter. But if you're saying that's the way he always was, I'll be interested to hear all the arguments, and when I get a chance to read it, I look forward to it.
Andy, sorry, can I just say one quick thing on Golovkin's style? It just came into my head, actually. I was interviewing Matthew Macklin last year, and I remember asking him, what it was like to go in the ring with Golovkin and fight him, and he said that one of the the toughest things about Golovkin was his ability to make you work without throwing any punches. He has this sort of innate ability to manoeuvre opponents into corners around the ring with his footwork and his movement, even when he's not even throwing. And Macklin was sort of, he said he was even blowing a bit after a couple of rounds, and he wasn't taking a lot of punches from Golovkin. He was just being moved around by his very presence. So just wanted to add that in on his style.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, well, the thing is, if you've got a fighter going back all the time, it's just his cardiovascular is just going to reduce his energy and stuff. You know, obviously running backwards, fighting backwards, you're just going to use a lot more energy. You need to use your brain a lot. You've got to think a lot, obviously, because you're moving. You can't see when you're moving back. And obviously, as well, you're going to have to try and keep this guy off you somehow. It's just going to wear you down. It's just how you deal with it. I really don't know, but the only way I think you're going to really deal with Golovkin is you've got to have a superior defence. You've got to have a quality chin about you, and you've got to have a wee bit of power. Definitely got to have a wee bit of power. If you don't have power about you, then you've got to have unbelievable boxing ability.
Yeah, you'll never keep him off if you haven't got any power, because he can lead and then counter punch you. It's such a strange ability he has. He leads off on you, waits for you to throw back in between. He's countering you. He's just a superb boxer.
Next question comes in from Boxing Tip Advice. How shit is Jim Watt's scorecards? Adam.
Shit in his commentary.
We lost Adam.
The scorecard last night, I wasn't really paying too much attention to his scorecard whatsoever. I don't hate on him as much as some, but his extremes are so far apart.
I think he had it quite wide for the first
we scored the first
rounds.
round a draw that I thought was incorrect.
I mean, I think I had it level something like around about 6 or 7 round or 6 round I think it was, but I think he had it something like 4 or 5 rounds to Abraham.
He only gave up to the last round. He only gave Smith 1 round going into the last round.
I mean, I probably don't hate on him that much because more often than not, a worrying trend is that my scorecards often are quite close to his. So maybe we're both idiots.
What was his overall scorecard last night then? What was his overall scorecard?
Was it 118, 110 or something? I think he had it.
He gave
Abraham
2 rounds to Smith and 1
was
draw. Even.
Alright.
So that would have been what?
118, 111?
Yeah, I suppose so, yeah.
I wouldn't argue with that, to be honest.
I actually had it close. I had it 115, 113 because I was trying to kind of actually try and give Smith as much, but I think as well as Abraham, when he landed, Smith knew about it, but it was a different other way around about when Smith landed his punches. It was just complete and utter swallowed up by Abraham.
Smith was throwing a lot of keep off me punches though. He was like staying in rounds by throwing punches, I thought, rather than dominating.
See, I think the difference this time round about was the fact is in the third round he was severely hurt. The legs went, and then I think it was more a case. No, it wasn't say survival, but yeah, I probably did say it was
staying in the fight.
Yeah.
Flurries he was throwing.
Andy watched last night's fight with C.J. Ross at his side.
Well, as I say, Kurt had it 116, 112. So
I'm just fucking with you.
So I think I had the first fight the same score as well. Actually,
I thought Paul Smith did alright. I've definitely thought he won it. I had it, 8-4, 1-1. I had it 8-4, I think.
No, I had it 9-3. I thought
1-1, 1-1-6, 1-1-2 was fair.
I mean, yeah, it was sort of close, but the sort of rounds that Paul Smith won is the rounds he sort of nicked, whereas Abraham was fairly dominant in the rounds that he won, and he was basically controlling the most of the fight. The only rounds he really lost was rounds where he was just being lazy and taking a breather, I think. So you can't really give it to Smith, the fight overall, I wouldn't say.
Yeah. Christopher Jackson's asking, with Hughie Fury dominating Rudenko, how far can he go? Also, how good is that win, Steve, compared to AJ's wins so far?
I think that was a good win, but Rudenko's sort of been built off the back of the Lucas Brown.
Yeah.
The fact that he was competitive with Brown. He didn't even beat Brown, he was competitive with Brown. And then you could say, well, how good is Brown? He looked absolutely terrible that night. He's maybe not even that good anyway. So Rudenko's reputation was built off that. But saying that, fair play to Hughie Fury coming back after a long layoff and fighting an opponent of that stature, 10 rounds as well. I know they wanted to put him in with Tony Thompson earlier, they were talking about, and I like that refreshing attitude. Peter Fury and Mick Hennessy want to keep him busy, they want to keep him active, but they also want to chuck him in with decent opponents. There's no point in just building the record up all the time. They want to test him and see how far he can do. I'm not sure if he's the biggest puncher in the world, but he seems to have skills. He's only young, isn't he? Is he like 20, 21, something like that?
Very young. Yeah, he's 20.
You know, he's only a young guy. He's a big guy, but he's still even physically maturing. I mean, you know, we need to give him time. He's as, you know, reasonable as a prospect as the heavyweight division has these days, which isn't really saying much. How far can he go? I have no idea, to be honest with you.
And if he didn't have that injury, the Fury's stated goal, if he didn't have the injury and if he didn't have the time off, would have been to try to make him the youngest heavyweight champion ever. And even in his early, I think, his 6th or 7th professional fight, I think they tried to get him a fight with Tony Thompson. And Peter Fury told this podcast when Matty DiGianardo asked him about it, he said, "Don't you think that's too soon for him?" And he said, "So what if he'd lost? He'd learned so much from it." And that used to be the way that you used to build a fighter, was that you would put him in with a guy who was a little bit above him way above him in class, and you'd let him take a close but competitive loss with the knowledge that he would be a better fighter because of it, and would eventually go on to do great things. But in a world where the taking a loss is such, looked at as like death, that's not the way you build a fighter anymore. So it seems to me that his uncle and the people around him seem to have this old school way of viewing things, where they're not afraid for him to let that go, and I really like that about the Furies, and I think that they're they're a fighting family, and that whole ethic that they embrace, the fighter ethic, I think can only serve Hughie Fury. He has an amazing jab. I didn't see his fight last night, to be honest with you, but everything I've seen of Hughie Fury makes me think that A, he's better than Tyson Fury, and B, that he will be eventually a serious contender, if not a champion, in the heavyweight division.
I like the way the Furies are going about the business, and a little thing that I don't know how widely reported it got, Kevin Johnson is training with him ahead of his fight with Anthony Joshua. That I think is a clever move. Not only for Johnson, obviously, but just in general, upsetting the apple cart. Big fan.
Donnie, sorry, you said you think he is better than Tyson, or he will become better than Tyson?
Tyson Fury?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is better than him now?
Yeah, I mean, Tyson Fury's got the size going for him. I mean, so and obviously he's further advanced in his career. He's older. So, I mean, it's a bold statement because Tyson Fury has actually done things, and Fury hasn't yet gotten that opportunity, especially coming off of a layoff, health-related layoff. But I think he has more fundamental skills than Tyson Fury. Yes, I do.
I don't think he'll get to world level, Huey, though. I don't think so. Sorry, Kyle, go ahead.
So you don't think he's better than Tyson Fury?
No, I don't think so.
Kyle?
I think basically Hughie Fury, the difference between him and Tyson Fury at the moment is that Tyson Fury has grown into his physique. You need to give Hughie Fury, even if you give him 4 or 5 years and don't put him into a title fight, you can give him fringe contenders of all shapes and sizes. Build him up that way. There's no need to rush him, just like Steve said. You can give him... I think he could beat Chagayev now. But personally, I think that it would put him in a bad situation where he might have to fight guys who'd be a little bit too tricky for him. I think if you just put him in with all the best domestic guys, all the top sort of fringe contenders you can find, maybe 18 months, put him in a price, build him up slowly. I actually do. I'm with Donnie. I think he could be world class.
Interesting. You just want to run your tongue right up his back, though, don't you? See those spots, man. Christ. Next question I'll go to Adam. Adam, this comes from Rocco. He says, what's Bradley's biggest fight just now? That seen that Fighter A, Fighter B is now a done deal. Can Cotto or keeping his missus out the fridge?
Probably the latter. That's good. That is good. Have Rocco and Shep met up and had a coffee this week?
I think so.
No, that's a good question. I think a lot of things will fall in place now. Hopefully, Amir Khan has to, go back into his shell, and hopefully has to go with his tail between his legs and fight someone, they don't want to fight. Basically, I think that's the best thing that can come out of Fighter A and Fighter B happening. Bradley is the welterweights tend to be, or the light welterweights and welterweights tend to be over with Mr. Heyman, or the Golden Boy divider, or whatever it is nowadays. I can't keep up. So yeah, Bradley's gonna struggle, I think, to find to find a decent fight coming up. What kind of date is he looking to fight? Is it? I know he's been for a couple of months.
You know, I mean, I know that Heyman and Arum obviously had to make some sort of peace for this recent fight that we're not allowed to talk about for that to happen. And so, boy, wouldn't it be amazing, just amazing, if Amir Khan could fight Tim Bradley on the undercard? I know I'm, probably, doing drugs right now to even suggest that, but I mean that would be amazing if they were going to do a cooperative undercard between Arum and Heyman. That would be a fucking great fight, and it was a fight that was supposed to happen at 140 for all the belts. Amir Khan's looking for a fight. Tim Bradley looking for a fight. They both need a fight. That would be, to me, the best fight that could be made right now for Tim Bradley. And I guess another great fight that could be made for Tim Bradley would be Provodnikov, but obviously he's busy with Matisse. So.
Next question, Alex. Paul's asking, a champ is stripped for not facing his mandatory. Should a mandatory challenger then be stripped of his position for not facing the champion? I think he's actually kind of alluding to the fact that he's talking about Billy Joe Saunders here. Should he be stripped of his #1 ranking because he's knocked back 2 world title fights thus far?
No, not really. I mean, we've seen a lot of people do this. It's not really up to them. Usually it depends on the situation. Obviously, this is for the case of Andy Lee, it's certainly not for the vacant title, is it? I mean, it's up to the champion ultimately who he fights, and if he can get the possibility of more money, and if someone's willing to accept step aside money, then that's the case. And if the belting organisation is happy with it, then that's going to happen. You can't force fighters to do that, unfortunately, if they're don't want to take the opportunity because they're getting paid more money. That'd be ridiculous for the IBF to sanction him, from earning because he's getting a better deal by not taking the fight at that particular time, at least, anyway. So, I think Billy Joe does deserve a lot of criticism for running his mouth a lot beforehand. Certainly, all of this, I'm a gypsy warrior, I'm an hard nut, I'll fight anyone, and then just not taking either of the world title fights that he's been offered. But you can't really complain about the acumen of the decisions that he's made. Apparently he's got a 6-figure payday out of it. Fighting Undam would be ridiculous because it's a rubbish fight. Undam could possibly school him and make him look very silly, whereas a fight against Quillin or Andy Lee is, I would say, far more beatable and far more winnable for him, as well as a far more profitable venture for him.
I think the second decision to turn the IBF down was can partly be blamed on the deal he's already done with the WBO. So it's not, he hasn't clearly, turned down 2 world title offers, straight off the bat kind of thing. So I can't see anything wrong with what Billy Joe's done, to be honest, as Alex just said.
It's like I said, it's based on what he's been talking, isn't it? I mean, we're very critical of the hypocrisy of certain fighters and running their mouths off and stuff like that, and Billy Joe deserves criticism for that. But if he hadn't run his mouth off, it'd be quite a good decision.
Next question, Adam or Steve. Kyle, I've actually got a question for you towards the end here, which I want to leave it to you. Steve and Adam, who are the worst? Ricky Gravel's asking, who is the worst British world champion of all time?
Go on, Steve.
Thanks very much.
I'll have a think. Worst British... Well, Nathan Cleverly. I mean, I know... Again,
Tommy.
I don't know.
Fucking yeah, Tommy's gonna ban you. Why is that?
Well, because as I always say, I don't go very far back in history, but yeah, it's got to be.
He's up there.
What about Alex Arthur?
Maybe a decent shout, yeah.
I see those WBO fights, the likes of him and Nicky Cook, and that, can you really call them world champions? Maybe I'm a bit controversial here, but it's like domestic fights with the WBO title tagged on to the end. It's not like you can say, he was a world champion, he beat some Nicaraguan in front of 100,000 people, he did this, he did that. This sort of like British level fights, he beat Nicky Cook, who I can't even remember who he beat. To be honest with you.
How about David Hay at heavyweight?
No, I mean we're talking about the Britain's worst ever world champion. I mean,
yeah, I know. So am I.
You can't. No, wait a minute. You can't. Listen, all trolling aside here. Hay as a cruiserweight was exceptional to watch.
I just said as a cruiserweight. That's why I said as a heavyweight.
No, you said no, but that's just you're being pernickety now by saying that. You just want to kind of tear it apart of you. But I mean, it was a good performance against Ruiz. He knocked the guy out. The guy has never been he'd been stopped off tour, but hadn't been stopped in a long time.
I think Hay he certainly splits opinion again there because as a cruiserweight, he could be one of the best British champions.
Oh, as a cruiserweight,
unifying,
he's one of the best. No doubt about it. As a cruiserweight, Hay is one of the best cruiserweights of all time.
But he went to heavyweight, and he splits opinion because he went to heavyweight and was dull at best. So yeah, he splits opinion even as a champion.
Next question comes from Dev. Donny, make it brief. Are there any opponents that Cotto can pass off as acceptable for May or June, whose initials do not begin with G? Lara or Jacobs?
Lara, yeah, plausible. Jacobs, fun. I mean, I think Jacobs could beat him, and that'd be a great story. He's a Brooklyn guy, probably fighting Cotto in New York. Jacobs is ready, I think, to step back to world level. I know he has the interim title now, but I think he's ready to step back to world level. That would be a great fight. And honestly, I know Lou DiBella obviously disagrees vehemently, but I think Amir Khan could beat Miguel Cotto at whatever the hell weight, and I'd be fine with seeing that fight. I know he's a welterweight. I know we'd all rather see Cotto face legit middleweights, but at the point where you check yourself out of what you want to see happen, and you check into reality and realize that Cotto ain't going to fight anybody who's a legit middleweight. He's not even going to fight Danny Jacobs. Fuck, I know the guy had a tumor wrapped around his spine, and I know that he's recovering from all that. He's not going to fight Danny Jacobs, period. End of story. He's going to fight somebody who's a welterweight, and when he does, I think the best choice is Amir Khan, and I think Amir Khan beats him, and that's all I have to say about that.
Next question comes from Will. Alex, does Froch roll the dice and agree to make a massive money spinning Vegas fight against Golovkin?
No.
Adam? No comment. There's no one there.
Sorry. I actually was watching that last night and thought that I'm not going to say that Froch beats him hands down. I probably would come to that conclusion after a bit of talking myself into it, but no, I think that kind of works. I don't know whether was it Donny, was that live on HBO last night? I saw the HBO banner in Monaco. Was it?
Yes, it was. Yes, so, it was live on HBO. It was shown at 5:45 p.m. Eastern time, and then it was shown again at about 10:15 p.m. So it was shown both live and on tape delay.
So he's still building. He can be sold both sides of the Atlantic. He's now knocked out 19 people in a row. And I know that we laughed at Eddie when I think he said something along the lines of Froch is a sick bastard. He might ring me and tell him he wants to fight. But really, I think it could be a possibility. I mean, we all agree it'll be a great fight. So why not? I think after last night's performance, I think it's more likely.
Final question. I know I've got questions coming out my ears here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shift some of them onto next week's show because we are running 1 hour 40 minutes. Final question I'll put to Kyle. Kyle Boxing Tip Advice is asking, how many fighters from the former Soviet states will be at top of the boxing world in 5 years?
I think they're going to be right up there, Andy. Basically, you see that a lot of them... The problem with boxing in the West, a lot of people say, the trainers have died out and they haven't passed the tricks on. Well, that's not the case in the Soviet states, or rather the former Soviet states. You see guys like Beterbiev, he may look really, really basic to most people, but he does a lot of things you don't tend to see nowadays, like slipping inside the jab and throwing the right hand over it. It's basic stuff. You do not tend to see it nowadays. I personally think, what with all the hype over Anthony Joshua, that Alexander Usyk's going to be the next great heavyweight. That's what I believe. I think you've got Evgen Kiyotov coming up. You've got a fair few good Ukrainians. You've got the Russians are always dangerous. I think that the cruiserweight scene is basically indicative of that. You've got guys like Kudryashov, Lebedev, Loads of guys. I won't even be able to mention all of them, but there's loads of good. Obviously, there's champions that are Russians, and there's contenders coming up that are Russians and Ukrainians and what have you. And I also think that you've got guys like the Azerbaijanis and that might come over as well. Maybe not, maybe they will, but they're definitely pulling the strings in the amateur school. And there's a reason they're dominating the amateurs, and I definitely think they can turn over and dominate the pros.
Sorry, I was just reading something there. Right, on to the Bellew of the Week segment now. Obviously, with Curtin being here, we won't be able to put the intro in, so this will be the moment where we will insert it for the downloads portion of the podcast. As I say, any of your questions have not been read out this week, they will get read out next week. As I say, because we weren't expecting Dillian White to come on this evening, so we need to kind of trim it down a wee bit. Try to keep the show in at 2 hours. We're running at almost 1 hour 43 minutes. Bellew of the Week now.
Okay, what's the bell? You beat me up, and that's all I've got to say about that. Let's do it right now. We can do it right now, you fucking rat. Okay, what's the value of the week?
First one up for me is Eddie Hearn saying that Ricky Burns against Omar Figueroa is a Fight of the Year candidate.
Christ.
Paul Smith, after last night's defeat, says Abraham is the second best super middleweight in the world, only behind Froch.
Yeah, that was bad. That was damage limitation right there.
Fake Chocolate, Peter Quillen. This is a quote from him actually. I know that I'm going to win on April 11th, become champion once again, and then I'm going after anyone and everyone at £160. I wonder if he's actually going to even just actually. He said this in the past before, isn't it? That he's going to fight anyone at 160, and then when the fights, or when it comes to make the fights, what did he say? That Golovkin doesn't bring anything to the table. Yet at the same time, and this is a fact, I looked it up, and I even mentioned it on this podcast a wee while back, that the money that averagely, if you look at the average purse that Peter Quillen has earned over his last, maybe 5, 6 fights, he's actually earned less than the money that's been paid out to Golovkin's past 4, 5, 6 opponents. I can read it out. Rosado, right, this is the Golovkin opponents. Rosado, $200,000, Macklin $300,000, Stevens $350,000, Gill $600,000, Rubio $450,000. So that's the average of $380,000. Quillen's purse for Winky Wright $130,000, Nandam $150,000, Guerrero $340,000, Rosado $400,000, and Konechny $450,000. Average $294,000. So there you go. Next up, I've got Al Bernstein for saying last night on Channel 5 that Martin Murray is the second best middleweight in the world. What about Cotto and of course Khan, they... Paulie Malignaggi, he mentions obviously on the big fight being announced, he says, I'm not sure they're the best anymore or now. Khan and Brook can challenge their supremacy. And the WBA for upgrading Nicholas Walters and Uchiyama to WBA Super Champions for whatever reason. I think that's it for my nominations this week. Yep, Walters and Uchiyama have been elevated to WBA Super Champion status. Well, I think what's his name? Jesus Queller has been promoted to interim champion. Sorry, from interim champion to regular champion. Fucking assholes. So that's what I've got this week. Who about you guys, Adam?
I've got one that probably won't resonate to many listeners, but Richard Towers' IFL interview in Monaco said a number of occasions that Martin Murray is from Wigan. I can just tell all listeners now that Wigan and St Helens might be close on the map, but they are very, very different parts of the world. Second one was...
They're not that different.
Trust me, they are. Trust me, they are. I've got a Wigan postcode. I ain't got a Wigan accent, but I've got a Wigan postcode. And secondly, Martin Murray fans in Monaco. I know he got bashed up badly in the fourth, and they weren't very quiet after that. But the venue only held 1,000 people. They was claiming up to 400 of which were going to be, lad kids from St Helens. Brilliant that they've gone over, but I don't think they made enough noise. But at the start of the fight, in the first 4 rounds, and they're certainly not after the fourth round itself.
Alex, you got anything, mate?
I seem to always bring up Eddie Hearn, so I've got a couple from him. First one was him talking about David Price he's doing his usual stick of slating David Price, saying his performance is very poor, he's gone backwards, and I agree with that. But afterwards, he says Anthony Joshua will easily beat him, but Anthony Joshua's not ready for that fight.
Donnie, you got anything? No.
Oh,
Steve?
One more. And
Right.
Eddie Hearn again said, I think in an IFL interview, Paul Smith's a great lad. He's very humble. He didn't moan about losing the first fight at all.
Aye, right.
Who said that?
Eddie.
Hearn.
You were saying that Paul never moaned about the first fight. He was very humble about it.
The entire city of Liverpool were like...
Wait, did anyone see that? Sorry, did anyone see that tweet that? Jesus, I don't remember who. Andy, you might be able to know, but if you were looking on Twitter, somebody said, look at all these tweets from casuals, and somebody said if you put Floyd Mayweather in with Mike Tyson in his prime, by golly,
yeah, there's been a lot of that. It's pretty awful.
Oh, it's fucking painful. It's painful. Steve, you got anything, mate?
Yeah, I'm going to nominate Nick Halling if I can, actually. Now, usually Halling doesn't really bother me that much. I sort of got used to him, but he was really grinding on me last night as the rounds went by. He was just saying all these things, and he was starting to annoy me. And then there was a culmination of his stupidity in the 12th round that really annoyed me. Abraham nearly slipped on some water. There was a big puddle of water in the canvas, and the referee called time, called the German's corner to clean it up. So two guys jumped in with towels, very quickly cleaned it up in seconds. It was dealt with really swiftly and professionally. The fight carried on, only a few seconds taken out. But amidst all this, Halling went into this tirade about, I've never seen anything like this before, Jim. This is absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, is this guy a boxing fan? I don't understand. Does he not know the way things work? That was it for me. I know it's a bit semantic, but it was a build-up to that point, and so Nick Halling.
I want to add to that Nick Halling thing. I think it was about round 11 or round 10, in between rounds. Nick Halling and Sky decided to cut to the audience and see Max Branning from EastEnders there, and we had to hear from Max Branning and see
not
his
him
face
again.
And what he thought of the boxing during a grueling world title fight. We had to be reminded that Max Branning flew out and received free tickets to the show.
Yeah, but it included Nick Halling included. Not only did they get him on the visual, they included him in the commentary because he said Max Branning is here, but he's had a busy week. I'm thinking, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Did anyone notice, or was it just the YouTube that I was listening on, that around the second or third round they went to Ed Robinson, I think, and someone else for a round? Did that happen live? Like for a whole round? I mentioned that on Twitter last night. The best thing at round 2, I actually said it was like going back to the old Harry Carpenter days when there was no commentary. You could just zone right in at the fight. And then what happened was for round 3, Macklin and Ed Robinson did the voiceover for, I don't know, was it a round or so until... Was that a mistake, or was
yeah,
it,
well,
did they
I
lose
think
signal?
they lost signal or something, and
right,
I thought Ed Robinson and Macklin were really good at doing it. And again, the silence was really good. As soon as Halling and Watt came back, it was just, oh, fuck's sake.
Yeah, I kind of like, when it went silent, I kind of like sat up and took more attention. I mean, I do listen to a lot of fights with no commentary, so that's probably why.
Yeah, Sky must have had the rookies in, or the work experience boy working in last night, because usually they pride themselves for this sort of super slick production, and there was a few bollocks up, if you noticed, between the adverts. They kept on going to the black screen, with the white thing on, and that happened a few times, so Sky weren't on their game last night at all.
But what they're doing, lads, is that they're going to put more mistakes in deliberately on normal Sky shows, and then when it's pay-per-view, they can talk about how slick the production was.
Kyle, you got anything, mate?
Yeah, I'm going with Steve Collins for the whole league. Did you mention Steve Collins?
No. I mean, he popped some shite last night.
Steve Collins said, Lee Haskins is the best bantamweight in the world. He's just avoided by people. And he also said that Golovkin is a really dirty fighter. Every time, you notice everything he does is dirty. He's doing this, when he hits you to the body, it's around the back, it's dirty. You know, people don't realise what he's doing is dirty. And also, why do they always go backwards against him? They need to go forwards, just showing an absolute lack of just knowledge in any facet. I don't know how he ever did it as a boxer, because he clearly has no knowledge of boxing. The whole Lee Askins thing, I mean, I love Lee Askins. He's an unsung hero for me, mainly because he often gets in truly abysmal fights. But the fact of the matter is, Steve Collins saying that Lee Askins is one of the best bantamweight in the world was just absolutely ludicrous.
The Don Broadhurst fight, Kyle, do you remember that one? That
Oh, that
was
was
one of the worst fights of all time.
What are you on about? That was like the Hagler Hearns of the super flyweight division,
Christ.
mate. Unbelievable,
That was terrible.
Mate. Oh my god, mate, that was bad.
So the nominations are as follows: Paul Smith, Fake Chocolate, Al Bernstein, Paulie Malignaggi, the WBA, Steve Collins, Nick Halling, Eddie Hearn for numerous offences. Who else?
Martin Murray fans and Richard Towers.
And Steve Collins.
Yeah, I said him. So, Kyle, who do you think should win it? Who are you going for out of that prestigious list?
Sorry, run it by me again.
Christ. Paul Smith, hang on, Paul Smith, Martin Murray fans, Nick Holland, Steve Collins, Fake Chocolate, Al Bernstein, Malignaggi, the WBA, and Eddie Hearn for numerous offences.
I know it's my own pick, but I've got to go with Steve Collins, mainly because those other ones I learnt about afterwards, or maybe it didn't affect me as much, but the Steve Collins one hit me at the time and generally stressed me out.
Steve?
I'm gonna go for Eddie's comment about Paul Smith not moaning, but I noticed here on Twitter, Andy, just to mention Grand Theft Shep. I'm not sure if that's the Shep, the other Shep, or a new Shep, but he's put a late entry in here from Kevin Mitchell. I think it's the Guardian boxing writer Kevin Mitchell, who's put, okay, who's the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world? Floyd Mayweather or Triple G? Not much in it. What a fight that would be. So that's from Kevin Mitchell on Twitter.
He writes shit all the time, mate. He writes shit all the time, that
tennis,
bloke.
I think, maybe. I don't know.
He's fucking shit, mate.
So shout out to Shep, yeah. I'm going for Eddie Hearn, by the way, sorry.
Eddie Hearn, okay. Donnie, who are you picking?
Hang on, I just missed, the only one I missed was, what did Al Bernstein say?
Al Bernstein says that Martin Murray was the second best middleweight on the planet.
Oh, well, that's actually true. No, I don't disagree with that.
What, you want to put yourself up for this award, do you?
I'd agree with Bernstein on that as well.
Yeah,
there's worse shit than that been spoke, hasn't there, this week, I think?
I agree
yeah,
with that.
no, I mean, fucking, who are you going to say, Cotto? He's not a real middleweight. That's why he won't fight a real middleweight. That's not even value of the week nominee material. No, I'm gonna go with Kyle. Actually, I like the Steve Collins one. That's fucking good shit.
That's two for Steve Collins. Alex.
Yeah, I didn't realise that Steve Collins actually said that stuff about Haskins as well. So I'm going for Steve Collins. That's fucking abysmal.
So that's three for him. Well, Adam, it looks like it's down to you. If Eddie Hearn doesn't get the vote here in our cast, the vote for Eddie Hearn, it could be a draw this week, but it looks like Collins is going to piss it out the park. Who are you voting for?
I'm sticking to my guns. I'm going with Quillen. I think that is just a pure hypocrisy from turning down however much he turned down and then saying he will fight anyone. So Quillen for me, and I don't care that I'm the only one who's voting for him.
Yep, so really my vote is really useless actually, in all honesty. So Steve Collins, sir, congratulations, you are our Bellew of the Week award winner. And just on that topic, give me a second here, these fucking phones just don't work. Here it is, just for you. Well done,
I'll
Steve.
make sure not to mention that to him next time I see him.
Yeah, I hear
Present him
something.
with the award.
Something happened I hear about him. We'll not mention it, obviously, Steve. Right, guys, we're running it here. Very, very brief. Well, 5 minutes. We've got 5 minutes here. The big fight next week: Carl Frampton against Chris Avalos. Steve, you're likely to be in attendance, mate. Give me your take on the fight.
Yep, I'm going to be in attendance. I think that the atmosphere is going to be amazing as usual. I'm looking forward to the build-up next week. Belfast will be rocking. I think Frampton is going to win on points. There's a lot of people seem to think he's going to knock Avalos out. Loads of people I'm speaking to all seem to be saying 6th round stoppage. I keep hearing that from everybody. But I'm not convinced that Avalos is going to go down as easily. I've seen a few of his fights and he's a tall guy with a good jab. He's very tough and I think he'll make it difficult for Frampton early on. But Carl will get to him and win widely on points. I would be surprised. I think it'd be a reasonable statement if Frampton were to stop Avalos. I actually rate Avalos. I was speaking to his manager, Mike Crischio, whenever they came over here before Christmas, and he said he'd never seen Avalos dropped or put down in his time managing him, or if he had been, he couldn't remember it, and he described him as a tough son of a bitch, and I would actually agree with that. I wouldn't predict a knockout. I'm going to go for Frampton on points. The undercard, not really much to talk about, so just stick to the main event, yeah. Frampton, 12th round decision.
Just obviously the rematch of Lanny or Solis against Tony Thompson next Friday. You've also got Tyson Fury, Christian Hammer, Dmitry Chudinov against Chris Eubank Jr. for a bogus WBA strap. Frank Buglione, Bradley Skeet also on that card. And Dempsey Fury and some guy called Boy Jones Jr.
Boy Jones Jr.
Boy Jones Jr. I don't know who that is.
I think he's a traveller.
Is he? Right.
I think
no
so,
worries.
yeah.
No worries. Donny, Carol Frampton, Chris Avalos. Do you agree with Steve? Is it going to end inside 12 rounds? Is it going to go a distance? Who you got in this fight?
I got Frampton, probably by knockout, but I think that even if he doesn't knock him out, he will knock him down en route to a wide points decision. Just remember, Jonathan Romero was supposed to beat him too, and he did. And then didn't Frampton stop Kiko, who stopped Jonathan Romero? I don't know. Barry McGuigan's a good matchmaker. I think he made this match because he thinks that it'll make Frampton look good, and I think that it will.
Alex.
Frampton Avalos.
Yeah.
I think this will surprise people in being quite a good competitive fight. I think Avalos is a lot more durable than people were probably initially making out. I think that Frampton is going to be a bit more cagey about it for certain because he's on such a big platform now. I mean, ITV. When was the last time a fight was on ITV? How many years ago was it now?
Was it Pascal around the Pascal Froch time? Was it 2009, something like that?
It could be. I remember. I think they showed either highlights or the full version of Abraham Taylor. I know that. Obviously, they did a lot of Fury fights on ITV4. I remember, but for proper ITV, this is a very good opportunity for him, and I think that he'll want to put on a show, but he'll also not want to lose, obviously, and that's the main thing about it. And Avalos, he is very durable, but he does get into a bit of a tear up at times, and Frampton might just bring that out of him if he lands a really cracking shot on him and makes him wobble. And if it gets into a tear up, I think there's only going to be one winner, and obviously Frampton's going to knock him out, but I think a cagier approach will probably lead to a wide points decision for Frampton.
I think that's a good summary. Sorry, Alex, just to jump in there. I think that's a good summary. I think Avalos' best chance is to keep it at range. Like I said, he has a good jab and he's tall, but he will engage with Frampton if he gets copped and if it goes into a war. He's not the type of guy who'll stay at range. So I think that if Frampton can draw him in, then there is a chance he could knock him out.
Adam and Kyle, give me your predictions. Adam?
Frampton KO is 1-7 with the British bookmakers, 8-11 for the KO. So the book is certainly.
What money going down there?
There is actually there's only our friends over at Patrick Power who have opened the betting today on the method of victory, and I've just literally logged on, and the KO is in blue, i.e. there has been some money for that today, so they've had to shorten the price. So yeah, someone's obviously lumped on KO to cause that shorten of the price, and I think they are correct.
Wait, who's the referee for this fight?
God knows.
Terry O'Connor.
Is it in John Lewis?
That's a good question. It has been announced.
Because if so, I'm going to go lump the mortgage.
Kyle.
I don't think Avalos will get knocked out. He is open though. The thing is, he's got a good jab. He doesn't really slam it. He sort of pushes it, and he tries to set up counter opportunities, and then he just, as soon as he hits someone hard, he'll try and bomb him to the body, to the head, and his head stays on centre. So I think Frampton won't find it hard to hit him. I don't think he'll knock him out. He does seem pretty hard, Avalos, but I'm going to take Frampton to do the cleaner work, counter punching, and I think he's going to win the decision.
Yeah, I think so too. I think if it even come in, I've said it before. Carroll can box front foot, back foot. I think he's got a lot of tools in his arsenal. Pity Dave the Hater wasn't here. He wanted to shit on him slightly. So we're going to have quite a few fights to discuss next week. It's going to be picking up. Thankfully, the action is going to be picking up. Like to thank the panel today: Adam Smith, Alex Morris. Thanks to Alex for doing the work on the background there tonight. Donny Baseball. Yep. Dave the Hater for very briefly. I was up in Montana visiting the Unabomber. Steve Wellings. Kyle McLaughlin. I'd like to thank Lou DiBella and Dillian White for coming on the show. I've been your host, Andy Patterson. We'll see you on Thursday, 8 p.m. It's going to be all talk Mayweather Pacquiao. Get everything you want to see out of your system, because we will not be discussing it or taking questions on it until fight week. So next Thursday, 8 p.m. live. You know what to do. All the best. Have a good week. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Cole Frotch, still top £10 per pound.